that's a triple play. New episodes, I couldn't wait. Yeah, open your mind at the first gate. Press play, no need to debate. AoA, check me out. Look, plugged in, you can catch the hype. Golden Dawn, how we follow the light. Anime like life, married to it, my wife.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the AoA show. I am your host, Isaiah, and today I'm joined by none other than Lord Heaven.
What is Gucci shoes?
What's up? All right, today we are going to be going over the latest Jujutsu Kaisen episode. Little spoiler warning, I loved it. I absolutely thought this was really cool. I think this was a great tie-in to the last episode that we did, or last episode we had, rather, especially with the... I mean, we got so many things, right? We got the reveal of Gojo. We got sort of a little bit more knowledge about what the cursed spirits are planning and sort of like how the organization works, or the fact that it does seem to be like an organization. And we get a little bit more of like Itadori and by extension us learning about the world of Jujutsu sorcery. So let's just we'll start from the top. So immediately we get right into the fight, right? We have Gojo versus Volcano Head, and it seems like Volcano Head does not, like, he's expecting to wrap this up in, like, 5 seconds flat, right? He's like, all right, let me hit this guy with this, flamethrower real quick, followed up with, like, my bug thing, and then we'll call it a day. And is basically, starts pooping himself at the idea that Gojo is not only not threatened by it, but, like, isn't even touched. She's, like, literally not hurt. And so we, as, like, the viewers, like, we kind of already have an insight on, like, where Gojo stands as far as like strength wise, but this episode kind of like really puts it in perspective, because even though we know that the Volcano Head curse, that his power relative to Sukuna right now is actually stronger, we know that he kind of stands in like the 8 to 9 finger level of strength. That he's still nowhere near Gojo's level of ability. And we learn that later because basically he does like a super advanced technique and Gojo literally just one-ups it. But yeah, I'm curious what your thoughts were on this episode.
No, and that's a great point, because I was going to say the same thing, where we know he's around 7 or 8, and then Gojo, very confident, was like, I'd beat, the original, like, what was his name? Sukuna, yeah, his name always slips my mind, but he's like, yeah, I'd beat Sukuna at full power, so you already knew that Gojo, he wasn't going to be contested, and he went straight through. But it also, what I appreciate is it also respectively tells us where Itadori is, because he has only consumed what? 2-3 fingers, I think.
3 fingers, I think.
I think 2 or 3 in that range. So, like, he's a third of Volcano Head in terms of power, and even then, he doesn't have all the experience with it. And that's assuming that he lets Sukuna take over his body. So, like, there's a lot of stipulations that are at play, and it's cool when it's like you're able to settle the playing field, and kind of where everybody's at, and just really how OP Gojo is. Like, literally just sat him down, went to school, took Itadori back. He's like, I'm teaching you a lesson. We'll get back into that as we explain the fight. But, like, dude, just purely manhandled him. I mean, just look at that beautiful face. Oh, my God. I can gush for days on this man. Like, I wasn't expecting the reveal so early on, to be honest, because even when we were watching it, and I was like, yo, when we see this man's eyes, you already know, like, he's gonna stun on us, and we're just gonna die. We're gonna melt. And then at like literally 5 minutes later, you started to see him lift it up, and I was like, bro, I ain't ready. Like, I need my big boy pants on because I'm about to piss him right now. Like, And oh my God, what did it live up to the height? Like, this was like almost Kakashi level revealing eyes. Although I'm gonna say it was a little bit more hype when Kakashi did it because of the buildup. I'm not gonna lie. However, for me, it was like that same feeling where it's like they have the same vibe as that sensei. that like cool, slick, soft spoken. Although I can't really say that. Gojo's he has his funny moments, but like I see a lot of similarities in them,
for sure.
As like senseis. So, dude, oh my God, it was just amazing. Pure bliss is how I can describe it.
Yeah, for sure. So definitely. So we'll get into that part then. Next is the fight. So right after, or relatively after, Volcano Head realizes that he's completely outmatched.
Yep.
Gojo starts to throw in a couple, and we learn the existence of his specific like skill of Jujutsu sorcery, which is called Infinity.
Yep.
And so we've only watched this episode once, mind you. I do not 100% have like a clear breakdown of how the Infinity works, I guess, to all of its extent. So we know that basically it is referencing like the space between them. Gojo and like his opponent. And essentially his curse energy allows him to manipulate that space as he sees fit. To what extent he can do that, you know what I mean? Like, can he literally like, I'm talking like big scale stuff, like sort of like, let's say, somebody's on like the other side of like the map, right? Can he like split and cut the distance of space between him and them and be there? Like, is that warping? Essentially, because he has that moment in the episode when he's in the middle of the fight with him where he warps back to the school real quick, or wherever that is, grabs Itadori and comes back. But I wonder if like the warping is just is another use of
like
his
manipulation
thing,
of the
and if it's literally just like him, if he's here and like let's say the school where Itadori's at here, if his infinity ability allows him to just minimize and cut the space that's between them in and then like now he's here, right? And so in essence he warped, but really, like, you know what I mean? So that's what I think is going on. And the thing that I have, I guess, to back up that theory is the moment when he shows the cursed, like the volcano guy, like his skill, and like you see that like the closer the guy gets to Gojo, the slower like time moves. So it made me think like, okay, literally like the space time that is either like directly in front of him, but by by position between him and any target is what he's manipulating. Like literally that's what he's able to control. And so that's what I think is happening. I'm not 100% sure. I'm just basing it off of the episode that we've seen and just what he was saying. But we realize that is one of his abilities, right? As far as a Jujutsu sorcerer, he's kind of just like, as far as levels, like he's just, if Volcano Head is coming in here at like your first like level 20 boss, Gojo is like level 100 like sorcerer sensei. He's not like, they're not even on the same page here. And we learned that through the next thing that he does, which is the Volcano Head's like, all right, fine, if I can't ever touch you with your infinity technique, I'll just bring you to one of my domains. And so Gojo, like without missing a beat, is like, oh, this will be a perfect time to teach Itadori about what domain like creations are. Warps over, grabs him out, and does make a remark that he's impressed how quickly Itadori has picked up the ability to simultaneously do the things while pouring cursed energy in. So he's like, oh, okay, cool. Now we can like speed up this training. Things can actually get fun. So he brings him over, and Itadori, like you were saying, is sort of, he's dumbfounded at the fact that Gojo is like, oh, don't worry about it. Like this spirit, this cursed guy, he's weak. And Itadori is like, yo, weak. Like this dude just from the feeling,
the strongest spirit, like one of them at least.
I've ever fought, and like you think he's weak. So like again, really speaks to where Gojo is at in terms of scaling, where it's like Gojo doesn't even have to, like, this is he literally could do it with splitting his attention right between Itadori and the guy. And so he brings him into the thing. They get into his domain, and you basically learn that one of the ways that fighting with cursed energy, and like one of the things that these spirits can do is create domains. And essentially what it does is it allows the user, whoever creates the domain, to have like guaranteed hits on any of their attacks that they use within it. Essentially because it kind of reminded me of like, I don't know if you ever played any of the Pokemon games. Okay. Well, there are moves in the Pokemon games that are called like terrain moves. And so like, for example, if you have a fire type Pokemon, you can use a move called Sunlight, and it literally amplifies the sun in the stadium, which by precedent increases the strength of all fire type Pokemon's moves.
Gotcha.
So that's basically what I was getting at from this domain thing, which I think is really cool because once again, it adds in another sort of, a ticket or another tool, let's say, that like cursed energy spirits and by extension Jujutsu sorcerers can use, because we realize that the domain thing is not even something that's exclusive to cursed spirits, because Gojo also has one. So when he's going through the whole lesson thing with Itadori, and he's like, oh, like, Itadori's like, wait, so if he gets a guaranteed hit here, like, how are we going to top him? And Gojo's like, well, you just have to use your own. And then like when two domains, interact or are in the same space as each other, the dominant one will always take over. And then we get, I'll let you go into what you thought about that fight and that reveal. Because I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, well, one thing that I found interesting with the whole domain is one of the points that they made was that Gojo's infinity was no longer a thing. So if you remember when the rock was thrown at him and he's like, now I can touch you or now I can hit you. And then, he like put his arm out and he stopped that like lava boulder or whatever. And he was like, yeah, I felt that, So that was interesting because he also made another remark when he was going through like the ABCs of just domains and things that, you should do or shouldn't do. One of the things that he said, which was interesting, was along the lines of it's virtually impossible to escape a domain just by like brute force.
Yes.
Which is an interesting tie-in because my first thought when they got stuck was, all right, he could just phase out. Like obviously he left to go get Itadori and brought him back in a snap of a finger. Like, he could just phase in and out of these as he wishes. But it was like cool to see where it's like, no, like even his infinity, as OP as it is, can't work in this situation. So like my thought was like, that's interesting, because if he's that strong, I would have thought it would overpower that. But like, I don't know. It really kind of goes to show how like strong these domains are. And even if like Gojo can't use his infinity, which is like a bit like, obviously he has a whole arsenal of crap, but like, it's if somebody like Itadori was to get stuck in one, he needs to be able to overpower it with his own, because you're not just running out of there or phasing out of there, and I guess people can't come in as easily either. So, you know, it's definitely interesting, and I'm waiting to see how we get those implementations moving forward. And obviously, they're all in all different settings. Like, you know, later on in the episode, they're at a beach, you know, and it's like cool where how is their domain going to play to their strengths, and it kind of reminds me of Pet. I know you didn't watch that anime, but it was like that dream world that people can manifest like their own places and stuff like that with their highs and lows and things of that nature. And it's like, I wonder if they can just freeform their domains at will. Like, I want this location, bam, or I want that location, bam. Or is it like a set thing based on your personality or your fighting style and things? So we'll have to see moving forward. And obviously what Itadori's domain, if he's able to, I'd imagine he'd be able to produce one in the future at some point.
I think that Itadori's domain is actually going to be Sukuna's domain.
I was thinking the same
we've
thing,
already
yeah.
seen it. It was the realm that he gets taken into in the last episode when Sukuna's talking to him, and he's like, all right, you seem to be missing a heart. I'll let you out of here and bring your heart back if you sign this contract with me. That place they were fighting in, I think that was Sukuna's domain, but I think it's in a sort of like fractured state, if you will, because Sukuna himself isn't whole. So I think once the more fingers Itadori starts to collect, that domain, that place, which I think is their domain, is going to start to sort of like really manifest and take shape as, you know, this sort of like palace of the dead type looking thing.
That's true. He also, I know Sukuna made a remark that was actually his body, because if you remember when Itadori came in, he was like, I don't want you entering my body without my permission. Like, he said the word body. So I don't know. Like, it still could be like a manifestation or whatever fragmented one, you know, of a domain that he can somewhat conjure up. But it was just a weird thing when he said it, and because I remembered it when I like saw it, it just stuck with me. He's like, I don't like you entering my body without my permission. And like they showed you like the spine and like all the fragments. Like, it still could very well be the domain that they were alluding to. It was just interesting where it's like your body, like.
Yeah, well, I think Sukuna is on like a different level when it comes to, especially if we're talking 20 full-fingered Sukuna, than any of the special grade curses we've met before. So I think it actually doesn't, especially like, because again, in that episode, to go back a little bit, when you meet him there, he's like sitting up on the throne, you know, like I actually don't think it's too off base to assume that his domain is like his body, is himself. Because he's just that kind of arrogant and like he's just that cocky that it's like, this is my, like, what's the dopest place to be? My body. Like, you know what I mean?
That would play to his character.
Because and so that's what I think Itadori / Sukuna's domain is going to be going forward. So I'm curious to see how that's going to be implemented, because again, when we're talking about most of these people or sorcerers or cursed spirits, it's like they're kind of the one thing here, right? And it's like, oh, let me do my thing, or here's my skill. But Itadori and Sukuna, like we're essentially two, you know, people, right? There's two parts to this whole here. So I'm curious to see, again, I've been saying this in the past couple of discussions, like what the relationship between Itadori and Sukuna is going to be like going forward. Is it going to be a thing of like constant struggle, and then it ends up being like, all right, we just need somebody to get control of this body first, and like whoever does gets to keep the power of Sukuna but also the body of Itadori? Or is it going to be a thing of like, you know, again, we got to go back to Naruto and Kurama, where it's like eventually they actually befriend each other, or at the very least like learn to work together, and it becomes a thing of like the two blend their, you know, ideas or minds or personalities, whatever, together, and they become this like different third being entirely, right? So I'm definitely curious of that. But then, so without further ado, though, we get into the big reveal of this episode, which is the beautiful, beautiful face and eyes.
Let's just hold on quick. Look at that. Look at those eyes, dude. And even watching it, I was like, bro, if this guy has blue eyes. And lo and behold.
Yeah, in our reaction episode, I mean, it was, you know, if you guys watch that, which you absolutely should, it's just indicative. Our reaction is indicative of how we feel about it. It was just, first off, this nigga's beautiful. Just 100% out to get. This is a beautiful ass man, and we were just completely thrown back by it because so it's always funny to me how when somebody like looks so normal or so like, you know, everyday or, you know, ordinary, but like their personality is completely flipped.
Yeah.
So it's like this man, you know, he just looks like a regular, beautiful dude. But like the way he speaks and the way he acts and moves and stuff is like almost sadistic, right? Like he enjoyed torturing this current spirit a little bit, or he enjoyed like showing him just exactly how weak he was. So like that, just off the gate, is like something for me where I was like, yo, this is a side to Gojo that we haven't seen before, and I think that's actually a little bit more of like insight into who Gojo really is as a person and like how he actually views cursed spirits and all of this stuff.
Yeah, and in hindsight, now like really looking at it, because honestly, I was kind of creeped out. Like when we first saw it, I was like, this man's beautiful. But then again, when you saw him fighting, you were like, there's something with just the glare in his eye that like literally like kind of made me unsettled. I was like, oh my God. And literally just staring at the screen, just trying to like decipher it, I found out why it was off-putting for me. And that's because he almost had that same glare as Griffith from Berserk. If you read the whatever the 1997 anime, or watched it, not read it, but like whenever they made a count to show like when he was marking someone or like really being perceived, like he'd give him like that glare, and you'd like get that blue eye, because he has like the same eyes. It's like that glassy blue, like just glare, like I'm a get you, you know? I saw that same like presence and feeling in him, especially when he was fighting, that like I know I'm better than you, like that condescending, like I'm gonna just muff you up and you can't do anything about it, and I'm gonna just sit here and stare. Like I just got that same vibe, and it was so off-putting, but yet it made it more exhilarating, because I'm like, this is just awesome, you know? It's crazy. 100%. But I definitely was feeling that Griffith eye vibe from him. But yeah, dude, I don't feel like he's like a Griffith. Like I still feel like at heart he's the same person. It's just he just has that like sadistic, like, you know I'm stronger than you, so I'm gonna mess you up.
The word that comes to mind to me is predatory. Like he had this look about that, like, you know, again, specifically at the spirit, but just in general, like a predator watching its prey. You know, like I know that I'm stronger than you. This is the part in this fight where I eat you. You know,
exactly.
And like it sort of comes to fruition later when we see essentially his domain, you know, through his eyes, which is, I'm assuming like it is his ability. It's the infinity ability, but like jacked up to 150%, right? So he's like literally controlling, he's essentially making his own like domain, his own like realm, right? His own world. And in it, he controls everything, every aspect of space and time, to the point where this I keep wanting to call them demons. This cursed spirit is like, he's just petrified in fear, right? And is like, because he comes to this realization that like, he's utterly and hopelessly defeated in this fight, right? He can't even move if he wanted to, and he can't even grasp the difference in the gap in power level between, you know, someone like him and someone like Gojo.
Yeah.
And with that, Gojo quite literally breaks this man and defeats him, and then rips his head off his shoulders, which, like, again, you know, we're talking about how like weirdly creepy and unsettling Gojo's presence is. That was kind of creepy, you know, watching him, like, again, almost carefreely just detach this thing's head from its body.
Yeah.
And like, it was, you know what it is? That's what it was, the weird role reversal. Like, that's the attitude and behavior I would expect of the cursed spirit, right? But like to see Gojo doing it again, if it was a little like, I think you're like enjoying this a little too much, my man.
Yeah.
But we see that, and so then Gojo, you know, they win, and as they're sitting there, Gojo is interrogating the head by just crushing it, and then we pan over to the guy whose name is evading me, who is actually like the traitor of the team, you know, like he's pretending to be with the sorcerers and stuff, but like clearly he's with the cursed spirits, and the cursed spirit from the same kind of cursed spirit.
Yeah.
From 2 episodes ago, or, you know, whenever they're
exactly.
in that,
I know what you're talking about.
And essentially he's like, all right, I'm not really about that saving stuff, but if you want to save him, like, go ahead. And so that guy comes in, and what was interesting is when he makes the entrance to kind of come and save him, again, talking about power scaling and like who's stronger than who, he does immediately, and I don't know if this was just because Gojo and Itadori's guards were down. I mean, Itadori, it's to be expected because he's just generally weaker as a sorcerer or a fighter, but he immediately catches both of them by surprise and has both their guards dropped for, you know, a little bit. Gojo snaps out of it quicker. So it's interesting what his ability is, because it seems to be essentially he can like create these flower beds in whatever area he wants, and whoever's in them like sort of like loses the will to fight, or like kind of zones out of whatever you know, reality or whatever they're into. and then snatches the head and he eats out of there. So like we learn that again when it comes to like where all these cursed spirits are and where these demons are. You know, I would be hard pressed, and I think even one of them says it later, that like as of right now, Gojo is still kind of the top dog here, like even compared to all of them. But that like they even say it later that in order to beat someone like Gojo, we're quite simply just gonna have to outsmart him because we can't, you know, toe to toe. We're not gonna be able to just fist and headstrong this guy.
Yeah.
But I'm curious what your thoughts on that.
Yeah. Well, definitely that other. Wow, you literally saying I was calling cursed
spirits.
Cursed spirit. I was about to say demon because you were like, why am I calling him demon? And I was like, yeah, why are you? Oh, what are they called again? But the cursed spirit, that it definitely threw me off when he just kind of hopped down there and caught him off guard because don't forget, like when Volcano Head joined the party, he was literally Gojo was in a car, like just like doing his business, and he was like, yo, stop the car. I'm gonna get out, drive away. And then this guy came. Like he literally had like minutes of preparation where he knew this Volcano Head's presence was in a general vicinity, and then for this guy to literally just hop down out of nowhere and just catch him off guard in a trance, like I even think that caught Gojo off guard because he kind of had to look like, oh, like I didn't even realize, like, oh god, like that's not good. So, and then he made a remark even to Itadori where he's like, I want you to get strong enough to beat a guy like that, you know? And in my mind, like alarm bells were kind of ringing a little bit where it's like, I don't want this to like sound. I don't want to drop this. So this is my first episode doing Jujutsu Kaisen, and I don't want to be the. I don't want this to happen, but if it's gonna happen,
it was at this moment he knew he fucked up,
and that is the death of Gojo. I almost feel like, in some way, shape, or form, he has to. Like at some point in the story, he's gonna have to die because that is like what's going to light the fire in Itadori to really move forward. Like, I feel like in some way, shape, or form, it has to be done. And what kind of feels like not a safe falling out, but at the end of the day, you know, Gojo is the only one who is able to kill Itadori at the end of their contract. You know, when he consumes all the fingers, Gojo is the only person who can physically match up with him. However, they already alluded to Megumi, you know, with the fight with why do I keep on thinking Sasori? Sukuna. When he fought Sukuna, obviously Sukuna saw an energy in Megumi, which was like, I want to wait and see this out, which might be enough to actually kill, you know, high level curse people. Cursed spirits. My God, dude. I'm literally having mind farts. So my whole like kind of thought moving forward in my predictions is that Gojo is going to have to die at some point. Okay. And who's going to kind of take his place is Megumi, because I feel like Megumi is going to be able to facilitate a power to be able to kill high-level cursed spirits, and actually might be the one that's able to exorcise Sukuna at the end of it, which would kind of like, I don't want to say easily, but it would create a back door to allow Goju's death without the whole like, all right, well then how are you going to kill Sukuna? You know, like now we're screwed at the end of the day. Like it almost seems a little bit too clean to be like, oh, he has this latent power, which is going to be able to clean up, you know, high-level spirits, and oh, Gojo kind of is a little too OP, and we might need to just like move him on to give more, you know, to light the fire under Itadori's butt. Yeah. And I feel like it's just kind of I can feel set up in my eyes. I don't know if you see the same thing or if you think Gojo's just gonna live it out, you know, and be the mentor. Like he's not gonna die right away, but I feel like he's gonna have to see the exit sooner than later.
Yeah. I definitely can see an avenue that the story goes where Gojo dies. Mm-hmm. Because I do agree. Well, first, so just to clarify, Gavin was saying Megumi. What name did you use?
Megumi.
I've been using Fuji, and the character we're referring to is the same, which is I just not clear on what name.
I don't know. Use. I just saw Megumi, and that stuck with me. So
fair enough. But I do actually believe the theory that you're saying about Fuji, where because like you said, the moment of the fight that we referenced when Sukuna sort of like eyes him down and he's like, there's something going on here. And I believe either last discussion or two discussions ago.
It was last discussion.
Yeah. I brought it up to Ian and I was like, I think that he either does have or can unlock some sort of like latent like Sharingan level ability where it's like something very specific to Fuji that not many other sorcerers can use, and it will be something that will allow him to level the playing field with Sukuna. And so I do understand and agree, you know, I can see that theory of like if Gojo dies, if he does die, like Fuji's kind of the back door here, like they're not just, you know, straight screwed. But I could also see a avenue in which Gojo quite simply lives, but like gets out, like becomes bested, or Fuji and or Itadori surpass him. And because again, a lot of the other hints, it's a much smaller hint, but in this episode, Gojo does sort of enlighten to the fact that Itadori not only picks up on the picks up on the training that he was doing fairly quickly for Sorcerer, but like those kinds of hints that he's been dropping, I believe it's because Gojo thinks he can train Itadori to become an even stronger sorcerer than him. So I don't necessarily, I could see the avenue, and I would get it, and I would understand it if it happened, but I think I do also see an avenue where Gojo doesn't die. He just quite simply becomes, outbested, quite frankly, whether, again, it's a manner of like Gojo. You know what though? Now that I'm thinking about it,
I feel like it's both. Like he's giving Itadori the pieces to be better than him, and then once Itadori, gets their pieces or is at that last step, that's when Gojo is outed, and that remaining like space is where Itadori has that fire lit to grow and surpass him. Like I feel like a substantial death of some sort has to happen to Itadori. I mean, it happens in every anime. Like, let's be real, and like that is just like the clean slate for me is like, oh, he's important, he's dead. Like I just can't help but feel that way, but I can see it at the end of the day.
No, yeah, you're definitely right. I don't know. It's definitely a toss up here. But let us know what you guys think in the comments below. I think that's going to do it, though, for us for this episode. Again, if you guys like the content here, you like what we're doing, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment below. Did you like this discussion? Did you not like discussion? Did you see this episode of Jujutsu Kaisen? If so, what did you think? And how excited are you for the next episode? Because I'm pretty excited for the next episode. Spoiler alert.
100%. And you already know we're going to be covering it, so.
Yeah, absolutely.
We got you.
Until next time, though, guys, peace out.
Catch you later.
Hey, you know what it is, dog. Ninjas are samurais, blazing the kunais. Find me in the leaf of the cloud, screaming out Bankai. We just some ghouls though, who like seeing parts fly.